Welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake Public Meeting of Finance, June the 12th, 2018. One notice, at its meeting on June 19th, Council will consider a bylaw to set the 2018 operations and capital budgets, possibility of an alternate date of June 26th at the latest. Approval of the agenda.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Barker. The Council approves the agenda for its public finance meeting of June 12, 2018 as presented.
All in favor? Approved. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared. Reports of municipal officers and communications. CAO, Wilfred.
Thank you, Chair. What I will do this evening is give a Reader's Digest version of the presentation that I made last week. It skips over the 2017 and focuses on the 2018. Please bear with me. So the purpose of the presentation is to propose a preliminary operating and capital budget for 2018, and it's to provide a refresher on calculating taxes. Ryan Dagelman, our tax collector, will handle that aspect of the presentation. This is the schedule that we have proposed to Council for budget deliberations. It bears, as the Chair had said earlier, next meeting on June 19th and June 26th. We'll see what the dates are. Executive summary. Basically, we cover off reserve funds, working capital. You'll hear references to a capital budget, operating budget. We capture that in this slide. The current working capital as of 31 December 17 was $628,000. Current reserves, again, as of December 31st, 1.1. Current reserve funds as of 31/12, roughly $600,000. 2017, we did realize an adjusted surplus of $770,000. 2018, the preliminary capital budget is 5.59. Based with these numbers, we're requesting from the levy $900,000. The 2018 preliminary capital budget expenditures come in at 15.9. 2018 preliminary operating budget net other revenues, that's ones that are not raised from the levy, 6.5. So what are we requesting from the levy for the operating budget? 9.3. $900,000 for the capital, $9.3 million from the operating, gives us a total demand on the levy of $10 million. That is taking, sorry, I keep tripping over my tongue tonight. That takes into account using $268,000 from the 2017 surplus. That is the number that we're looking at. This equals a 6% increase over the 2017 levy of 9.4.
Is it okay to ask questions as we go along? Or?
I will embarrass myself by not being able to answer it. Yes, sir.
Well, no, just with regards to, okay, if we're taking 268 from the adjusted surplus, it leaves roughly $500,000 in the adjusted surplus. That's being added to working capital. So now our working capital reserve is 1.1?
It would be up, yes. That added to the working capital is based on a resolution passed by Council in December of 2017.
So we'll be sitting at about 1.1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
2018 preliminary general operating budget. TKL departments will use roughly $13.9 million. Regional agencies will account for expenses of roughly $1.9 million. Total expense, $15.9. Taxes levied to date, obviously zero. Other revenue realized through the Ontario Partnership Fund and other sources, $6.7 million. Less the net tax write-offs against revenue, $170,000. So the total revenue that we have in hand, 6.5, so the difference, 9.3. Again, what I'm saying is that the request for the operating budget from the levy, 9.3 million. The 2018 capital budget. 2018 projects total 3.5 million. Projects carried forward from previous years, 1.9. Total budget for the capital, 5.5. Total funding secured already, about 84%, is 4.6 million. So the request from the levy for the capital, 900,000. I'm summarizing the presentation now. I hope that I have been clear. The levy needed for 2018 operating, 9.3. Levy needed for 2018 capital, 900. Subtotal, 10.2. Decrease the total using the share of the 2017 surplus. Remainder goes to working capital. That's 268,000. Brings down the requested 2018 tax levy to 10 million. In comparison, the 2017 tax levy was 9.4. The difference, $562,000, or an increase of roughly 6%. That's the end of my presentation. I would turn it over to Ryan to explain the impact on levy, how that impacts on taxes, if that's okay. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, so using the $10 million levy figure, this is a summary of our tax rates using that figure. We're using our revenue neutral ratios, as we discussed in the previous meeting. By looking at this, you can see that the tax rate for the residential class is looking at an increase of 1.72%. Multi-res will decrease by close to 9%. Commercial decreased by 3%. Industrial class up 3.38%, and our pipeline up 5%. But again, as discussed in the previous meeting, these tax rate numbers can be a little misleading when you're speaking of actual dollars and levy. So I'd like to focus on to the next slide. Here we can see the actual dollar amounts that will come about from $10 million levy and using these rates. So you can see overall, we're looking at about a 5.81% increase. That includes the education portion of the tax rates. Our municipal side, we can see that residential takes the biggest hit of the levy, taking in the majority of the increase amount, and that relates to about 7% of an increase from 2017, sorry. Multi-res, again, is actually up 8% in total dollars compared to that 8% reduction we've seen on the previous slide. Commercial occupied is 3.55% increase. Our industrial occupied is 2.84%. And we can probably move to the next slide now. And if we look at our next slide, we can kind of see proportionate-wise to individual properties what they could see with a possible increase or decrease. On average, with this increase, residents are looking at about $125, again, on average. Multi-residential, for the properties with an increase and a decrease, you can see on average we're looking at an increase of about a little over $1,000. Our commercial occupied class is looking at an overall increase of about $342. And our industrial occupied class is looking at an average increase of about $1,700.
And that, sir, concludes the presentation.
Any questions from council? Councillor Morgan?
Yeah, thanks very much, Ryan. I brought up, some of the questions I had about the ratios at the last meeting. You provided us with a lot of material here. And what you provided was, what's being proposed and what in a perfect world would be ideal. And you're absolutely right, because in a perfect world, you know, we'd have 1/3 of our assessment would be residential, 1/3 would be commercial, 1/3 would be industrial, but we're not there. And this is where we get into the concern that I have. And we've made a lot of progress on reducing the commercial tax rate, because the commercial tax rate, in my eyes, is what's helping drive our economy. And I don't, you know, it's not realistic for us to go to 1.1 ratio. I understand that. But where I'd like to get to is to make sure that the commercial taxpayers see as little increase as possible. And that's where I want to go with this. So whether it's, you know, I mean, you've got 2.3 now as a ratio, I believe it is. If we can go to 2.2, 2.1, but if we can get it closer and get them closer to what they paid last year, because we need to keep sending the message out to the business community that Kirkland Lake is open for business, and we mean to get there. We're getting there. So they come to the table, we come to the table. And once we can start that virtuous circle, we're seeing new commercial and industrial development now that's going to add to the tax base and add to that column on our sheets here. And that then is going, in turn, going to help us be able to give us the wiggle room to be able to start to drop the taxes for everybody. Because if we've got more assessment, then everybody has to pay a little bit less. And that's where I want to go with this. So I would really hope that that we can find a way to just drop it, you know, not an insignificant amount, but not to the point where it's you know, causing undue burden on anybody else. But I think we need to keep sending that message. Certainly, that's been something I've fought for at the table here since I've been on council. And so, anyways, that's my wish, I guess, out of this process right now. The other question I have, just related to the overall budget, and again, I alluded to it at the last meeting, and I want to just reinforce at this meeting. There's a lot of one-time costs involved in this particular budget, and I understand that, you know, we have to pay for this year's budget with this year's levy, and I understand that. But be mindful that next year, you know, a significant portion of that increase will drop off of the burden, and will give, you know, our ability, if we leave it at 6, you know, if there's no increase next year, there may be, you know, an equivalent of, you know, 2% increase or 3% increase, and, or, you know, whatever the council of the day chooses to do with that. But there is, you know, a lot of one-time costs this year that I just want to reiterate, and that provides potentially a little bit of wiggle room in next year's budget. So I just wanted to reinforce that. Thank you.
Councillor Morgan, are you looking for Ryan to bring back another tax rate scenario with the commercial, industrial reduced to that level? As we know, we can't, the program does have some restrictions, but
Yep.
If you would like Ryan to do that,
Yes, I
see what
would.
he can.
Yes, I would, please.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Councillor Roman?
I'm getting back to the working capital reserve, and in my opinion, that number is quite healthy. And if there's some place that we needed to find room, because I tend to agree with Councillor Morgan, whatever we can do for the commercial rate is to everybody's advantage. So if we were to, right now, we're proposing to draw 268 from the surplus for 2017. I'm of the opinion that we draw more from that surplus. It still leaves us with a healthy working capital reserve. And it would certainly take the pressure off the residential taxpayers, because when I look at that, what that's telling me is we overtaxed everybody $750,000 last year. And I see an opportunity to at least use some of that to bring this year's rates down a little bit.
The problem I would have with that, Councillor Roman, is when we take into account our HR costs, including benefits, pension plans, we're running about close to 1.2 million a month. So the fact that we're at 665 or whatever, close to that, 628 at working capital, that's, and up to $1 million, it's just really covering 1 month's total operating or HR costs. And obviously, there's more than HR costs involved in the operating budget. So I'm not as optimistic as you might be that, yeah, we're in a better position working capital than we were in the past. I agree, but it's getting closer to, I think, where it should be. Would you care to comment, Wolf?
Yes, sir. My concern after going through the budget process relates more to some of the other reserves, because we don't have on the screen here your water, your wastewater. Well, wastewater, I think, is 31 under, and I think by the time you get to the end of this year, correct me, Jose, if I'm wrong, but you're looking at about a $300,000 deficit, roughly. And if something goes sideways, which it seems to regularly, that's going to be the kitty that you can draw from, because the wastewater at this point has not been legislated that it has to pay for itself. You can draw from your other sources. So that is, to me, that's a very real concern. There's some capital items on the 2018 capital list. One of them, just for a point of comparison, is an inspection. Donnie, if you can help me out. It is for the tunnel, the main tunnel that runs through for the wastewater collection in Kirkland Lake. That thing is in terrible condition, you know. If something like that happens, we may be left to rely on our own resources until we can secure some kind of senior government assistance. I understand, I appreciate what you're saying. My concern as an administrator is to make sure we have enough in the kitty just to handle those unforeseens, which we know are foreseen, if I can say it that way.
Councillor Morgan?
I'm reluctant to put staff on the spot, but I'm only doing it because the staff responsible are not here anymore. Why are we over on water and wastewater, Wilfred?
I was looking for an exit. We are over on our water and wastewater. Water, I think we're okay. Wastewater, because there was some fairly bad planning that had happened. There was some misunderstanding as to the realities of Northern Ontario. There's some misunderstanding as to how things have to be paid for. And we are wearing that. We're scratching our way through the capital projects that we have signed up for. We will make it. We have looked at doing something like taking out a loan and proposing that to council. But it's increasing the burden to the municipality right now, where perhaps we don't have to, because between the use of the gas tax, between the use of the working capital, we can probably make our way through. It may be something that we have to propose in the future. But we're trying to be conservative, trying to live within the means, and at the same time address those past errors.
Councillor Morgan?
I just wanted on record that council asked numerous times if water and wastewater were included in the connecting link funding, and we were told that it was, and it is not.
Initially, that's correct.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions from council? If not, we'll move into the public presentation. Just going to set the guidelines for that first. The meeting will last a maximum of 2 hours allocated. 5-minute allotments for each speaker. At the 4-minute, 30-second mark, Joanne's bell will go off here, so it's a 30-second warning. You speak to the chair only. Council are not going to be involved in back and forth conversation, neither will staff. Be respectful of others. Do not speak about identifiable people or positions. And all questions will be recorded and answered in writing by staff and posted on the website at the end of Wednesday, June 13th, tomorrow. Just a general comment. This is a total budget meeting. It's not just about waste management. I know there are concerns out there, but there's the whole budget process to look at. So we may have to limit some of that if it gets carried away on just waste management. There's more to it than waste management. So I invite the public to make any presentations or comments if they wish, if they'd come up to the table here. Judy? Or, sorry, we'll let this lady. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I couldn't hear a bloody thing back there. Is that speaker not on?
Please state your name and address.
I'm Helen Gordon. I'm at 60 Algonquin Avenue, Kirkland Lake, P2N1C3. I'm the one who wrote the letter into the newspaper. The reason I've come up to the front, I hadn't planned on speaking, but if you're going to be continuing this type of town hall meeting, I would suggest strongly, can you hear me back there? That would be nice to hear. I couldn't hear either of these gentlemen too well. You're the best. Mr. Hawes, is it? He was fine. The other chap mumbled a bit too much. If you're going to be speaking, speak to the people so we can hear what you're saying. Okay, that's my first suggestion. As for the budget thing, I'm not an accountant. I don't understand any of this. It's all gobbledygook to me. I know you're in dire straits for money, but when it comes to waste management, a 5-year contract at this point in time is a foolish mistake. This council is not going to be here in October. We're going to have all new people. That means it should be their responsibility to decide what contract, whether it be with that company or some other company or whatever. The mentioning of that single arm contraption that's going to lift up the carts, that's not going to work here. I'm a senior citizen, my husband's older than I am. We're not going to get out there to put those carts in exactly the precise position you want them to be. 5-week training, we're not trained SEALs, and I don't plan to learn that right now. This past winter was, it's not fair for us or for even a family. And you people should have the common sense, I haven't seen much of it, try and do that. We have more important issues in this town. We have an 82-year-old fire hall. That's disgusting. That's unacceptable. And the way this place has been run, I'm sorry. You should hang your heads in shame and be quite willing to leave. And let new people come in, people with new ideas and much more energy and enthusiasm to solve the problems. These problems are not going to be solved overnight. This garbage problem isn't going to be solved overnight. And to take on a 5-year contract at this time, you're going to leave us with a worse problem than what we already have. Chap that's doing it now is doing an excellent job. Let's keep it in the family. Let's keep it local. What are we doing with Sault Ste. Marie and Blind River? And they only have 10 people on staff. I have dubious feelings about this, and I can't find any more information about their balancing their books or financial reports. So we have a problem. You have the problem. You solve it, sit back, relax, go retire, take it easy, and let the new people fix the mess that you've created. And that's it. Thank you. I trust I don't have to answer any questions.
Sorry?
You want me to answer any questions?
No, you've said enough, Helen.
All right.
Thanks, Helen. Rick?
Rick Owen, 96 3rd Street. I'm sorry I won't be quite as controversial as our last speaker, but first I want to thank Financial Chair and Council for holding this meeting and giving the public a chance to have some input. I'm going to do something that I never thought I would ever do in my life. At the last budget meeting, Finance Chair Pat Kiley suggested a 7% increase, with the extra percentage going into reserves. And I happen to agree with him. It's not a financial burden for the taxpayers. It's minimal, and it's spread over 4 payments. If a guy like me can afford it, I'm sure it's not going to put strain on too many people in town. That extra 1% could be put into reserves because we know that we're facing major financial commitments. Some of these include the pool decommissioning, which should have been budgeted with the pool building but wasn't, the fire hall, which is not only over 80 years old, the floor has structural problems, and our latest ladder truck does not fit inside it. So we know we have to replace that. The physical services garage is a disaster, has been for a number of years. We knew we had major roofing problems, but we found out in the past year we also have sinkholes in the floor that had to be repaired. It's not a good working place for the people of Kirkland Lake. We have 90-year-old pipes that are in the ground. Yes, that comes out of sewer and water, I realize that. But there's no guarantee they're going to make it to 91, and we don't have the money to pay for it. And then there's the accessibility requirements that the province is coming down with. We're well aware that they're coming. We don't know exactly what they are, but we certainly do know that virtually none of our buildings will meet them. We're looking at a major expense to meet that. Now, I went to the Wishart and Wishart seminar, and it was very interesting, and the man made a lot of good points. Some points I didn't think were too good. But one point he did make is that municipal financing is like family financing. You don't just plan for 1 year. You plan for the good of the community in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. I've sat through more budget deliberations probably than anybody at this table, maybe not more than Todd, I'm not sure, but close to Todd if I'm not mistaken. And the emphasis I always saw was, keep the taxes down, keep the taxes down. And they were able to do it. How did they do it? Well, in recent years they did it through the increased money that came from increased assessment and eating away at reserves. A good example of that is the pool reserve. We were told over and over and over again as citizens of Kirkland Lake that there was $2.1 million in reserves for that pool. And if I read the financial statements correctly, we have approximately $212,000 left. I want to know, where's the rest of it? And why were we told that continually that there was $2.1 million there when it wasn't there? You know, that's not the way to treat citizens of Kirkland Lake. Now, in terms of reserves, in terms of the pool decommissioning, and with this budget being late as it is, I realize this money might already be spent, but I'm going to make a suggestion. The $10,000 that's set aside for exercise equipment be set aside instead for a reserve fund for, and I stress the word decommissioning, not recommissioning, the pool. I realize that money be spent. We're supposed to be providing a service, not the most up-to-date modern equipment, and there's certainly no lineup at the exercise workout places. There's more than enough equipment down there already. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Ladd? Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me back there? Good. Ladd Shaber, I live at 841 Government Road West in Chapius. Last time that I came here, the town hall meeting, we were facing the prospect of 24% increase in taxes at that time. And I'm glad to see that today, I guess, some of our fears are put aside, so we're down to 2%. So my first question is that, is this the best we could do? Is this the best we could do? Because if it's gone from 24% to 6%, is there room for it to go down? Or maybe not. Number two is, I look at this budget very quickly. Usually when I look at something like this, I like to look for the room for growth for later on. I mean, we keep getting everybody to pay more every year, could be 2%, 3%, but where's the room that is embedded in this budget for future growth of this town? Because if we have the same people paying again and again and again and again, I mean, it's not sustainable. Thank you.
Thanks, Ladd. Patrick Adams? Name and address, please. Kirkland Lake address.
24 Main Street, Kirkland Lake. So thank you for hosting this. This is really awesome that we have this opportunity to speak to council as a more transparent and open process. Took a long time for many, but it's finally here. So just a question about the budgets is we have eliminated levy for capital from multiple budgets, and that was around $332,000 just eliminated, when in the past we did budget for that. So the question is, what are the long-term implications from doing so? Because it was there the previous years and now it's gone. In terms of what were the largest cuts that had to get made in order to make this budget compared to last year? And since last year, what has become the highest sources of revenue for the town? For the garbage contract, to speak on it quickly, it's certainly a large savings of $367,000 a year. That's quite a bit. The question about the process that went on in regards to the procurement policy, section 6.7, which was quoted, it says documents in which all necessary agenda have not been acknowledged is an automatic rejection. With what was given to the public and is still publicly available is that two other companies, not R&R, were not able to provide a WSIB certificate. We ran into problems with the last contract due to health and safety issues and implications with the MOL. So that should be step one to make sure that their health and safety policies are in order, and that is a quick reference. It's still not available to the public, so that's what I'm referencing. In terms of that, for making town council accessible, there is money budgeted. Could that not be extended over a 2-year time? This is pretty fully accessible and is a great spot. And in terms of budget implications, we can space that one out a bit. But besides that, thank you very much for hosting this event. It's really awesome to have the opportunity for taxpayers to come forward and speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Judy Swanko.
Good afternoon, dear friends. My name is Judy Swanko, resident of 90 Government Road West, Department 6, former 22-year owner of 87 First Street, proud member of this community for 46 years. I'd like to speak on waste management, also known as garbage collection. Everybody around here, if they have been friends of Roddenberry's, Star Trek, or Star Wars, knows that we are not part of the collective. We are all human beings, and this last council has done their best. The council to come, I know, will do their best for all of us. Maintain our human resources. The present company has well-trained, women's trained, who work in all weather conditions. A mechanical arm is not good over our drifts, which, as you know, lasted well after May the 9th, which was the last day Herbie ever went down was May the 9th, but this year he went down later because of our winter. So I simply want to say, what we do well in Kirkland Lake, we do, but please do not throw out our babies with the bathwater. Keep the good humans who take care of all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Emil?
Good afternoon, Emil Boulay, 50 Bernhard Drive, Kirkland Lake. Thank you for the opportunity to allow citizens to speak here this evening. I've been involved with municipal government for the last, 15 years or so. I've worked on capital budgets, significant capital budgets. What I'd like to just offer a suggestion is for your reserve funds is possibly putting towards start off small, a 5% reserve fund, 5% of your working capital budget. So it's not an overall of your whole budget. You're not setting off. You work away small and you slowly build up your capital. Also, when I was responsible for working on capital budgets, I provided the DSAP board with a 5-year projected plan on capital. So they could see how things moving on in 5 years, where you could defer, move back, and look forward. Lastly, I just want to talk about the decommissioning of the swimming pool. Initially, when the whole thought was put together, proposal for the new pool, the old pool is going to be torn down. And so the decommissioning the swimming pool, like, if it's turned into something else, we've got extra heat, you've got extra hydro, and you've got extra staff that you're going to pay for whatever you're going to utilize that space for. It would make great sense, tear it down, add more parking there because you lost a lot of parking. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Emil. Any other speakers? Mike?
Mike Romaine, 876 Government Road West. Looking at the budget and hearing some of the thoughts tonight, I agree with Todd about about Todd and Pat about the 7%. We need to put some money away. That is a definite for the future. We can't keep going, spending everything we have every year and not having any extra. I don't do it at home. I'm sure many people behind me don't either. We always have a little bit of a reserve fund. If something happens, there's cash there to keep. Todd also mentioned about our businesses. We need to attract more businesses to employ more people in Kirkland Lake. We bring the businesses, we bring the people. That increases our homes, increases our businesses, increases our income. I will jump on the garbage also. Do I want to save money? Absolutely. Do I think it is the best choice? No. Today I went down Main Street and I did a loop. I went Main Street, Queen Street, and Taylor. Just on those small little streets, there was 76 manual pickups that guy would have had to get out of that truck to pick up just recycling. When I turned onto Queen Street, I looked up the road and our recycling truck was coming around the corner. I took a snapshot. 3 minutes later, that truck was past Queen Street. In that little time, he would have had to get out 9 times, which would have amounted to a lot more than what the time that they had. I don't believe Kirkland Lake is ready for this single man, single arm. Maybe it could be implemented over a 2-year or 3-year period, but today I don't believe we're ready for it. Could it be that we turn around and everybody has to buy a big blue bin so the arm can pick it up? Our taxpayers are going to pay for that, whether it's the town provides them or we have to buy them ourselves. Just in that one street, that would have taken that guy an extra 25 minutes just to do that street. Is this new contractor prepared for that? I know the questions were asked, but does he understand the scope of what has to be done? That's all.
Councillor Morgan?
Just a point of clarification, I'm not in favor of 7%, so.
I realized that after.
Thanks, Mike. Do we have any other comments, input? Person that, okay.
Richard Friedman, 103 Taylor Avenue, Kirkland Lake, Ontario, P2N2L8. Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to have this open house. I think it's very informative for all of Kirkland Lake to be able to come and to listen to things that we've read about in the paper, heard on the radio, and really don't know much about until it hits us in our back pocket. Most people don't understand what taxes do until they have to pay their own tax bill and it's not included in their mortgage, as I recently found out. I also am not in favor of a huge tax increase, but I understand that it's part of life. We all go and would like to have a $20,000 car, but for some reason we choose $80,000 or 50, 60, 70, $80,000 vehicles, and those vehicles have lots of bells and whistles. I know that everybody here that has worked in their departments has set their budgets, and they know what effect wages, fuel, uncertainty with the new governments, just the cost of doing business does to their budgets. And I'm sure that they rack their brains to figure out how to make the best possible decision for the town of Kirkland Lake. I also have been trying to do that. Our family's been in town since 1967. I listened to my father for years and years complain about the management of the town, but continue to be a lifelong resident and also very proud to be a citizen. I've tried to carry on the tradition of operating a business in Kirkland Lake, and it's had its challenges. It's definitely had its challenges. But in my heart, I believe that what my company brings to the table is of some value. We have grown from nothing. We have paid taxes, we have paid wages, we have paid fuel, we have paid insurance, and we've tried to do that all locally. I realize that the language in the Municipal Act doesn't allow for any favoritism for local contractors. And we have lost the bulk of the contractors that I grew up with that were digging basements, providing electrical services, welding shops, et cetera. So a lot of the stuff is coming from out of town. And what I have found is that they really don't bring a lot to Kirkland Lake. They come in, they buy the odd coffee, maybe rent one of my portable toilets, which is much appreciated, and they leave in the bus or the car that they came in that day. We've tried to maintain a local flavor. We try to buy everything that we possibly can in Kirkland Lake. I buy my fuel at a local gas station so that I don't bring in a bulk fuel provider from Englehart, New Liskeard, Earlton. Our insurance is kept here. I'm sure that I could take my insurance out of town and save some money, but the local agency provides me with what I need. My accounting is all done in town. They understand once again, the flavor. And all of this costs money. We all see that we don't like what we see on this piece of paper. We don't like to see the 6% increase. But with that 6% increase, we're going to get some value. Everybody's buckling down and wanting to improve because we see that there are more people coming to town through Kirkland Lake Gold, the mining industry, and people like FedEx who are bringing a positive influx of people to town. And also the Artisan is going, I understand some of my friends are coming back here to work for Artisan, and that's going to be a positive influence. With regards to the waste management situation, I have studied this for almost 20 years. I have traveled all of Canada from Prince Rupert, British Columbia to Sydney, Nova Scotia, and I've been lucky enough to be involved in seeing how most municipalities work. And they spend a lot of money on waste management. For some reason in Kirkland Lake, it seems to be the most contentious issue at all times. Nobody says anything about the fire department. Nobody says anything about the recreational department. All of these things kind of just, that's the price, that's the way it goes. Waste management seems to be a real hot potato. There are, I believe, 5 out of my 6 employees sitting here today. 4 of those employees are based in Kirkland Lake. Another one owns property in Kirkland Lake, so does pay taxes. Okay. I would just like to say that the idea of this type of system that you're looking at bringing to Kirkland Lake does not work for what you have now. There are a couple of issues that you have to address before you move to a fully automated system. The manual system of collection is the best method. I proposed that fully automated system 3 years ago, and I know that after having studied this in depth and now running this system, that this is the only way we can do it until the town council makes some changes as to the way garbage is handled in Kirkland Lake commercially and what we're doing with recycling. So I'm going to just leave it there. I do have some more points, but my time is up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Richard. There was somebody at the back. Reg? Or, yeah, this lady was first. Well.
Hi, sorry about that. My question, it's,
Name and address,
oh,
please.
sorry. Kelly Chartrand, 784 Government Road West, Chappies.
Thank you.
My question due to the waste management, if you're going to have this automated arm or whatever that's going to pick up the garbage and the recycling, what happens if there's a car blocking your bin? You're going to get it left behind for a week. It could happen 2 weeks, 3 weeks in a row. You never know. What's going to happen to all this waste that's not picked up? Because you can't keep, like, you only have one bin. So basically, what's going to happen is there's going to be an influx of garbage if it's not picked up. Where's that going to go? Obviously, people are going to have to start driving all the way to the landfill to bring their waste. That's not fair. I did write a letter to everybody, and I don't know if you got it or not, but that is one of my concerns. Or if the bin was moved inadvertently by somebody or whatever, it's the same thing. There's going to be an influx of garbage, perhaps. Or if the bin gets knocked over in the winter by the snowplows or whatever, and then they're going to be plowed into our snow dumps. All this garbage, what happens to it? It's just concerning, and I think that we should keep it local. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Reg?
Reg Newton, 35 Hughes Avenue, Chappies. Waste management. I understand you presently have 3 bids. Buyer beware. Good choice to get 3 bids. You'll usually find 2 of them are pretty close, neck and neck. One will be extremely low. Buyer beware. I hope you take great thought in choosing. Stay local, for one thing. I've been down this path for many years. I've done lots of quotes. When somebody's coming in low, there's a reason. They want to get on board. Anything can happen. If it's a 5-year, 2-year, 5-year contract, something goes sour, didn't quite work out the way the guy thought it would be. Oh, I had to pick up extra garbage, that'll be extra. I really can't make it. Where are you guys going to turn? To the Kirkland Lakers again. We'll always help you out. So bearing in mind, keep this in mind. Choose wisely. Thank you.
Thanks, Reg. Any other comments, presentations? Well, if there's no further, whoops. Yes, come on up, please. Name and address, please.
Joanne Libet, 701 Government Road West in Chappies. This is, of course, concerning our waste management. I've emailed every staff member, I believe, of the town hall. I've received 2 replies, which is fine. I do believe that we have a problem with finances in Kirkland Lake, but I also understand the services you're going to get for the money you pay for. We've been there, we've done that. TNR. And I'm a pure recipient of that, as my husband worked for them. 29 years. He is now employed by a decent employer who gives his heart, and as my husband has for the last 29 years, continues to serve. I have no idea how many times on a weekend, during the summer, when he's on holidays, we've received phone calls with complaints. Wayne stepped up, fixed it. There's nobody in this town that knows this garbage like Wayne does. And I really want you to reconsider, yes, the lowest bid. You've been there, you've done that. Let's move on to somebody who can provide us the service that you've been getting for the last 29 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? If not, this will end the session. adjournment.
I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council adjourns its public finance meeting of June 12th, 2018.
All in favor? Passed. We will have this, the results of this input on the website tomorrow afternoon. Thank you.